Hello, everybody. I'm Nobody. I intend to run for President of the United States 2028. Today, I'm going to spend about 15 minutes or so and talk about the green scam. So, I've got a video that I'm going to show you here from Donald Trump, and he was at the U.S. Saudi Investment Forum. He spoke for about 2 hours, rambling on about just picture a campaign speech of his. So it's like he's running for president. And I don't know why Saudi would care to hear about all that stuff, but in the middle of his rambling, he mentions the green scam. So just to show you that he did mention it, I'll play a little clip here.
Cost-crushing regulations and trillions of dollars in green new scams. Everything was a new scam. Green, green, green.
Trillions of dollars. I'd like to know where those trillions of dollars are going rather than just saying trillions of dollars. I'd like to know more about what the scam is. And I'm going to spend a few minutes today and talk to you about why I don't believe it's a scam, just from my own personal experience at a residential level. So earlier today, I was outside and I took a few videos. I'll share those with you of the project that I did. And this was over 2 years ago I did this project. Hi, I'm Nobody. Today I want to show you my security light I have outside. I bought this light and mounted it to a 6x6. I don't remember if I already had it or whether I bought it new. And I used that to replace what was on this pole. On this pole in my yard, I&M had one of those lights on there where you pay them monthly to put up a security light. So that pole that you see there, that belongs to I&M, and it had a light on it when I acquired this property. I've only had it for a few years, and so it had a light on it, and I asked I&M what it was going to cost to run that light, because I think it wasn't working. And so they gave me a cost, and I said, well, I think I can do better. So I did this. I asked them if I could put my light on their pole, and they said no. So I got my own pole. So I got this post, and so I'm going to talk to you about what it cost me to do this project, and then we're going to compare that to what I&M was going to charge me to keep that light on their pole. So I got that light from Amazon. I'm not, this isn't a commercial for them, but that's just where I got the light. I live out in the country, and I try to buy things locally when I can, but there's certain items like that you just can't find. And so they seem to be a good supplier, and they drop it off at my gate. And so that's pretty convenient. So that light back in 2023, July 18th, cost $96.28. That's just the cost for the light. Somebody had to drive it here. It got paid by Amazon to drive it over here. So it kept somebody employed. And that person made some money and paid taxes. And then there are guys that work at the Amazon plant that took it, I don't know, off of a truck and then put it on another truck. And Amazon takes their cut. And so they made some money off of this. And I'm pretty sure a ship or some kind of a transport vehicle got it from China to the United States. And so they got paid. And then there's a factory, I assume, somewhere in China. And I'm guessing they made some money too. And probably only cost them 20 or 30 bucks to make this light, maybe even less. I really don't know. But what we're going to look at is my costs versus savings. Okay, so it wasn't just The light I had to buy the pole or the post. It's a 6x6 treated, and at that time was at least $50. I'd have to look it up, but it was 16 foot tall and about 3/8 foot of it is in the ground. And then I paid my son, because I'm getting old and it's hard to use a post hole digger, so I put him to work and paid him $20 to dig a hole for me and help me shove that thing in there and fill it in with dirt. Well, I&M, they said that they were going to charge me $15 a month for this light. Well, not my light, but the light that was up on their post. Well, over 12 months, because that's how many months are in a year, it would end up costing me $180 a year to just leave what was up there and get it from I&M. So by doing the work myself, I was able to pay my son $20. So he got some gas money, plus learned a little bit of lesson about hard work. I think I got it from Lowe's. So Lowe's made some money on that post, Muncie, Indiana, so somewhat locally. And then I bought this light that came from, who knows where. So my cost is about $170. Probably add in there, a couple gallons of gas too, because I had to drive and go get this post. So $170, and I&M is going to charge me $180. So I don't know if I still use the term girl math, which is probably not politically correct, but you get the idea. It feels like I made $10 because it was going to cost me $180. It only cost me $170. So it seems like I'm $10 ahead. Now that's just for the first year. Okay. So from July 18th, 2023 to July 18th, 2024, it would have cost me $180. Then from July of 2024 to 2025, it had cost me another $180. And we're 5 months now after July to December, and that's almost another $80. So if you add 180 plus 180 plus another $80, you're around $440 if I did the math right. So what was going to cost me $440 only cost me $170. Now, so if the green scam is in fact a scam and companies can't possibly make something and get more in return out of it, then how did China afford to make this light and ship it to the United States and still make money? Interesting question. So let's take this to an industrial scale. So an industrial scale, are you telling me that the electric companies who are investing billions of dollars into solar and wind, that the reason they're investing that money is because they have no intentions of getting it back, and they're just going to pass on the expenses to the customer? Well, they probably are going to pass the expenses on to the customer, but they're also planning on making some money off of this energy, or I don't think they would be doing it. You think about how many businesses are out there that spend and invest money, but yet have absolutely no intention of getting their money back. That's the scam that we're talking about. Well, it sounds like stupidity and a good way to go out of business. But I find it hard to believe all of these businesses consider it to be a waste of resources and not a good investment. So I was outside. I got another little clip here, just me finishing up my thoughts while I was outside. I suppose the point I'm trying to make is, do we really need a multi-billionaire who's ran, or at least owned, large corporations managing our taxpayer money? Or would it be better to have somebody like you and me who understands that it's not an endless pot of money? Now, if you listen to my other posts, we talked about common sense. And so let's go to your and my level of common sense. So I got money coming in. I don't get paid to work anymore. I got a military pension that I get. It's not near what I got paid when I was a lieutenant colonel, but I got some money coming in. My wife works at the church, so we got some more money coming in. Well, by the time we give back to the church and pay our bills and feed our kids and try to send them to school and college, well, it was a little bit less. But to me, the common sense in that is you don't spend more than what you make. And I think most of us understand the concept of if we spend more than what we make, we start going in debt. So how do we stop from doing that? Well, if I'm spending more than I make, I've got two solutions. One, I either need to make more so that I'm not spending more than what I make, or the other obvious is spend less so I am not spending more than what I make. There's your common sense. So when we look to Washington, are we seeing common sense or not? So a couple of years ago, my family and I, excuse me, I'm sorry, we went out west and we visited Hoover Dam. And it's a huge, huge project and many, many workers. I'm going to pause for just a second. I got another vehicle coming in my garage. Sorry for that pause. So when we were at Hoover Dam, I believe I was saying that the dam cost a lot of money. And times were tough at that time, and we employed a lot of citizens to work there. And that kept them in work instead of giving out money for people sitting around at home. We created a project that kept folks busy. When we were there, they said that the dam, through its generation of electricity through hydroelectric power, paid for itself. Actually paid for itself. Sounds familiar. Sounds like my first year with my light, when in a sense paid for itself. Definitely by the second year, it did pay for itself. So there's your industrial scale project, an example that green energy can actually make money. The cost was huge up front, but over the years, Hoover Dam has paid for itself, and they say, it's what they say, is it's now owned privately, but they're making money, and they have a museum. We went there, and it's, I don't know if it's considered a national park or not, but we were there, and we had a nice time. A very impressive project. So I am not against oil. So if I start sounding like, oh, well, he sounds like a liberal. Well, I fully believe in oil. I was a manufacturing teacher at the high school and junior high, and my understanding is plastics comes from petroleum. And we make like everything out of plastic. Even cars are getting made out of plastic. So we need oil for that. There are folks that live in remote areas. We have some friends that live out in Wyoming. They got to drive like an hour and a half just to get to the grocery store. Those folks probably aren't going to be buying an electric car. They're probably going to need a truck. So I have an electric car. I also have a hybrid that has an engine in it. One of my sons drives that to school. The electric car my wife drives. We live about 5 miles outside of town, And that is a perfect car for making multiple trips in and out of town. And it's about equivalent to about 60 or 75 miles to the gallon, only we're not putting gasoline in it. We're plugging it in the garage. That's why I had to pause. My son was getting back from a bonfire or something he was doing. So we need oil. But we also understand in our conversation the other day about supply and demand. If the supply is high, the cost is going to be low. If the demand is high, then the cost is going to be higher. So if we stop creating the infrastructure for electric cars and we discourage people to buy electric cars, and by the way, there was no mandate to buy electric cars. If you don't believe me, Google search it and say, is it true that there was a vehicle mandate for people to buy electric cars? You do that, and you'll see what the miracle of AI comes up with. If you don't like the answer, then AI must be a bunch of liberal computers. Okay, because it pulls from everywhere, all different sources. Okay, so what's my point? So why are we drilling more? Why would we want to drill more and create more supply when we've only got a certain amount of demand? That doesn't really make sense unless you think that, oh, so we're getting rid of electric cars or discouraging people to buy electric cars. They're still out there, but I don't feel like it's the same kind of encouragement that we had before. And so if people aren't buying electric cars, and we also the other day talked about, now I can't think of the acronym, but the efficiency of the vehicles, the regulations on how clean the emission standards for cars are. So now we're going to have cars that get worse fuel economy, which means if they get worse fuel economy and we're not buying electric cars or discouraging hybrids, then the demand is going to go up. And if the demand goes up, doesn't it seem like gas prices would get higher? Because if big oil bought my campaign, that's pretty much what I would probably say, and I would try and encourage people to use as much oil as possible because that benefits the source of my campaign contributions. So interesting. But I look at it this way. So let's say we don't drill more. If we have more electric cars, and I'm not saying everybody's got to have an electric car. There are certain folks, like in the cities, where an electric car would be ideal. Short drives like what I do. Okay, I get good fuel economy, but I got a big honking truck with a diesel engine. Okay, so I like big trucks, four-wheel drives too. And it takes fuel to put in those things. But my thought is, if we can develop systems that reduce the amount of oil that people consume, wouldn't that bring the prices down because the demand goes down? As opposed to getting rid of the emission standards and the fuel economy standards mandates and getting better fuel economy. The United States is the world's leading oil producer. Yet our country does not have enough oil to sustain itself, which puts us up there with one of the top polluters on the entire planet. And so we drop out of these, what do you call it, energy accords or what that was in Paris. I can't remember the name of it. And say, hey, y'all polluting more than us, so we're just not going to do anything. We're going to do like you guys. Well, we already pollute more than everybody else in the world China might be close and they might have it, but as far as my research, I think the United States is the world's leading producer of petroleum. Yet we don't have enough. Now China's been buying electric cars and building their infrastructure. Why are they doing that? Is it because it's a green scam? Or could it possibly be they are smart enough to know that they depend on the Middle East and Russia for oil? So if we don't have to depend on anybody, then we're not slaves to their demands. We don't have to worry about whether they raise and lower prices. For goodness sakes, we went to Iraq because of oil, because we want to maintain stability in the Middle East. How about we're not dependent on the Middle East? You're like, well, we're oil independent. No, we're not. Our administration says we're oil independent, and we're not. We're oil dependent. Why are we importing oil from other countries? You don't believe me? Get on Google and say, is it true that the United States imports oil from other countries? See what kind of answer you get. All right, don't believe me? Look it up. So that's part of one of the things I'm trying to do here, is I'm trying to get people to think and stop listening to people. Don't listen to me. Listen to what I say. If you don't believe me, go look it up. If you believe me, go look it up anyways and find out if you should believe me. And that's the way I am with our President of the United States. Because he says things that I know are incorrect. I like to think I understand a little bit about science and technology because that's what I taught. So when he talks about things and I know they're wrong, I go and look it up just to be sure. All right, let's see if there's anything else I wanted to talk about. So I talked about green energy, talked about drill. Hey, that's going to create oil supply, but if they don't make cars less efficient, then drilling more oil is just going to create more supply. And that's not benefiting big oil. So you can figure that out. Play around with those ideas, and if you got questions, shoot me a note, and I'll put it in writing, and we can have a debate about some of my crazy thoughts. So, last thing, Donald Trump talks about how green energy is raising our electric costs. Well, I will tell you that I believe that is false, and for one main reason. To me, stopping these other forms of energy is a huge mistake. Okay? Like I said, I'm not against oil. We need oil. I'm not against coal because right now I'm against coal pollution. I would much rather have windmills and solar panels producing electricity instead of coal. But right now, what's the biggest push and credit to our GDP right now in the United States? Google it. Okay, what's our biggest source of GDP right now in the United States? And that is investment in these electricity hogging data centers. AI. Suppose that all these people investing trillions of dollars into these data centers are doing it because they're helping you and me, everyday American citizens? Or do you think that they're building these centers which hog all of this energy and jacking up our electricity prices when I think maybe they should pay for the increase in our energy costs instead of everyday Americans, because they're the ones that are going to benefit from all this fast data and AI. They aren't doing it for the benefit of humanity. They're doing it for the benefit of their wallet. You don't believe me? Time will tell, and then we'll see. So, thanks for bearing with me. That 24 minutes Didn't know I was going to talk that long, but I'm nobody. I consider myself incorruptible, which I think makes me different from the multimillionaires and billionaires that are out there that want power at the White House. I'm not looking for power. I'm just looking for getting our country back to where it was at one time, a country that people wanted to be a part of and have a society that's not living in poverty. I guess I don't have much more to say about that. Is there a green scam? I don't think so. I think the green scam is the scam. That's what the scam is. The green scam's the scam. Because there is no green scam. So I'm nobody. Be strong. Love thy neighbor. And together we can do better. Nobody out.